This is the ERP Advisor.
Today's episode, how legacy ERP could harm your business.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar, How Legacy ERP Could Harm Your Business. Today's a very special episode because we have Erica on the call.
Hello, Erica.
But
Erica's free software advice helpline.
Yes, I'll do a quick intro, but just point it out because obviously you guys can see this is a very special episode. But Shawn is one of our speakers for today, as always. Shawn is the founder and managing principal of ERP Advisors Group based in Denver, Colorado. Shawn has over 25 years of experience in the enterprise software industry, helping hundreds of clients across many industries with selecting and implementing a wide variety of enterprise solutions. His podcast, the ERP Advisor, has dozens of episodes with thousands of downloads and is featured on prominent podcast platforms such as Apple and Spotify. And we are joined by Erica, the one and only ERP expert, principal of operations, principal ops, and sales extraordinaire here at ERP Advisors Group. She also just so happens to be Shawn's co-host in real life.
That's right.
And wife.
More the host.
Yes. So honored for you to join us. Today we are going to discuss the risks versus benefits of remaining on your legacy ERP. So welcome. Thank you so much. I'm excited to dive into this topic.
Yeah, let's do it. Thank you, Rebecca, as always, too.
Of course.
And the guys.
Yeah, so just for some Erica, you deal with so much on a regular basis. You have so much experience in helping clients really navigate potential ERP migrations. You answer all the questions that people have every day about, is it time for me to leave behind my legacy system, or what should I do? And you have your free advice helpline that we talk about all the time that we push for. It's like Lucy from the Peanuts at your little stand. So that's why she's here, guys. She really is the source of truth for this subject, and we're really excited to hear what she has to say. But just to kick things off, Shawn, I know that legacy ERP, legacy software isn't always a widely used term. For the sake of this call, can you let us know what we're referring to when we say legacy ERP?
Yeah, really good point. Maybe it's I don't even know what I can say these days, but it's kind of a politically correct phrase for old software. So if you think about software that is maybe built around a different paradigm, like the architecture is built around on-premise only, let's say that, right? There's issues and constraints in those platforms that have been solved with more modern software. We don't want to be biased or segregate ERPs on age, right? We're talking ERPs here, nothing else, I swear. But there is a paradigm we've seen a paradigm shift with ERP, multiple, actually 3 of them. We're in the third wave, I guess is what we call it. But if we look at how apps were written, say before maybe 1983, was very flat file centric. Like it was AS400s, mainframes, probably even earlier than that, frankly. Then we had the mid-range systems that came into play that had these 3-tier architectures, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to get into that, right? Then in the early 2000s, we started to see these cloud-based systems, which are they're in the cloud, they're more built for multi-tenant use, et cetera, et cetera. So could we have a customer that's on a legacy system that's in a cloud-based application? Well, we can have some customers that have built out a ton of customizations, and some of the vendors have allowed their customers to not take upgrades. So they may be on software that's 20 years old still, and it might be in the cloud, right?
Right.
In the cloud means different things. We've talked a lot about that. You and I have, Rebecca, over the years. So there's lots of stuff out there to check on that. But I think the key thing here is to say that when we say legacy ERPs, we're talking about, ERPs are like 10 plus years that you've been using for that long. Now, the app could have been written earlier than that, right? But usually after a business, an organization, a nonprofit, a government agency has been using an app for about 10 years, they've missed that evolution that should have occurred within the 10 years. So if you think about it, 10 plus year old software is what we're kind of calling legacy ERP. Again, there's other ways to get into that and blah, 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 but I think that's the way we're going to say that. So we could say, what's a birthday at 10 years, or what's an anniversary present, or is it a diamond at 10 years? I was diamonds at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I don't think 10 years
There really
is
isn't.
enough to rate.
There really isn't anything
medal.
on 10 years. Okay, fine. So we'll just say 10 plus year old software equals legacy ERP. Does that work?
Yeah, great.
Good. Okay.
I think that's great context. And just to that point, we're going to talk about a lot of this, and Erica's going to dive into some of the complaints. But most of those legacy systems, because of customizations, because of other things that people do, look nothing like they did the day that you bought them or implemented them.
That's right.
So there are going to be a lot of people on this call that I think are in that category that didn't even realize they were in that category.
Yep.
So Erica, now we're going to get into the meat of it.
Let's do it.
Okay.
What are the most common complaints that we hear from prospects regarding their legacy ERPs?
You know, I do meet with a lot of companies. I meet with companies across many industries, companies and organizations, and there are a lot of common reasons why they're considering should they do something about their legacy ERP. And I will say my own personal survey, the number one reason is that the developer who wrote the software is retiring.
Oh, good one.
Or has retired, and they're trying to pull them out of retirement. Can you please come help us? You know, as we, I've met with more than one company that is sort of, begging their developer to still stay on and help. So that's one kind of legacy software that it was kind of a custom system or was a product that's not made any longer, but the developer who's kept it alive is still keeping it going for the company. Mm-hmm. And it's a risk for the business because the poor guy or gal wants to retire, and there's not somebody else that can come in and just learn it. And usually the code or the language is kind of not the modern things that newer developers are learning. So I could see why a lot of companies want to mitigate that risk.
Right.
I'd say, and maybe Shawn, you can address this, but I do hear from a lot of potential clients that while their legacy software is doing the functions that whatever those functions are, a lot of the business is being run outside that software. And it's like out of view. And it worries the execs, like they're doing spreadsheets or they have this other bolt-on or they have this little extra custom app over here to handle something. So maybe you can sort of expand on that.
Yeah, so over time, when an organization's using any software, right, they sort of say, okay, start, go live. Let's say it was 11 years ago, so it's definitely a legacy app. Over the next couple years, it's probably fine, it works, and then maybe some people that implemented it left, or there's been some transition. Some other people have come in and like, oh, I need the app to do this, and people are like, whoa, we're not going to change it because that was like a nightmare to go through that. And so this innovative person saying, what can I do? Oh, I know. I used to write Access databases in college. I'll write an Access database. Or I'll go get Basecamp, or I'll go get Monday or Smartsheet and build out a whole project management, construction management application for $2 million, just as an example. Only then to realize we probably should have just gotten Procore back in the day. Yep. So that's what I think happens, Erica. You're right, is that you get these shadow systems that sort of, they're kind of like their little like universes get built here and there because you got smart people that want to do some automation, but to, update the old ERP could require some effort. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because now you have to handle all those other external systems or special sauce kind of systems. Like, what are we going to do with those?
That's right.
And I have a few more here, because I think it is kind of good for the different listeners that might hear this, because the legacy software could mean different things. It could be like Great Plains we're hearing a lot of prospects these days. They're like, okay, we finally have the final notice from Microsoft. Great Plains is going to be finally sunsetted. I'm not going to say the date because I don't want to get it wrong, but soon, in the next couple of years, ish.
Yeah,
Ask Rebecca.
Rebecca knows, and Rebecca's got some write-ups, folks that are watching this. Look at the website because you've spent a lot of time getting this data exactly correct.
Let me tell you, it changes. The official year is now 2031.
Oh,
so they have some time, but
it depends on the version they're on.
The version you are on changes, and we never recommend somebody being like, you know what, I'm going to wait till 2031 and then I'm going to decide that I want a new ERP. Like they're giving you that time for a reason because they understand how hard the process is.
Yeah.
And we're hearing a lot more from ECC6 customers who also are getting notification from SAP. So there's those kinds of legacy problems where it's not like a custom custom system that somebody personally built, but it's a packaged product, and so some of the prospects we talk to, or they can't really leverage the modern technology that's been available maybe during, say, this 10 years or longer. Maybe not EC66 or Great Plains, not saying those specifically, but it used to be over the last 5 or 6 years, you would routinely hear companies complaining that, well, I can't integrate to EDI. We have an e-commerce site. I can't integrate to the e-commerce site. Or third-party logistics providers, or even the payroll. And then now, I feel like the last 5 or 6 months, almost every single prospect is saying, I need to get off of this legacy because I need it to be ready for AI. So that's now the new bucket list item. Yep. EDI and e-commerce are almost like, that's almost passe, but I got to get ready for AI. True. So I don't know, like what is the issue with, like, if you're on Great Plains or if you're on maybe old Microsoft Nav, why can't they integrate to websites or?
Well, they can do like you said,
e-commerce.
They can do, e-com, EDI, there's solutions out there. And this is a really good point too about this definition of legacy ERP, because if you're on any of those products that you just said, there have been upgrades and patches that you could take to keep you modern, to keep you updated, right? In line.
Fixes.
What's that?
The hot fixes.
The couple annual updates. There could be some regulatory changes with 1099s every year, et cetera, et cetera. So the software vendors are maintaining those applications. GP, I'm not sure about SL. But Nav, AX, I'm not sure. It's GP is where we've been spending most of our time, isn't it?
SL is at like the end. They
Okay.
don't do that anymore. There's more like sustaining extended support.
SL,
but some of the
it's been a good ride.
some of the products have, like you were talking about, some have in place GP where they do update the product and suddenly, like, maybe I can get some. I'm not going to get Gemini embedded throughout all of it, like anything like that. But I might be able to get something.
Right.
And then you have other products, depending on the version you're on, depending on where you're at, if you can't upgrade, that you can't get anything because they can't write the code.
So the most important thing here is for folks that are on, I mean, we'll kind of stay in the Microsoft ecosystem for now. Talk to your partners about your app, your version, and what you can do to make sure that it's supported as long as you need. Right? We don't want you to switch off of any of those apps if they work today. That's fine. You kind of got to make sure that your life and your business runs, right? And then you have the luxury to look up and say, okay, what else is out there, right? Now, if you want to start leveraging Copilot more with the AI with Microsoft, to your point, Erica, Microsoft has said, and this isn't like I wish I could point to something formally. I bet the dude who loved our socks in Norway.
Yes, Frederick.
Frederick, if you're listening, Frederick, send us the link. Seriously, we love this when the partners send us these links. That says Microsoft said we're going to embed Copilot in GP. I don't think I've seen that. Have you seen that?
No.
Okay.
And I bet it's not their focus.
That's right. Their focus is putting AI into, it's also called Copilot, also called the paperclip on steroids. I said it. But put AI into Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central, Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations, Supply Chain, whatever. Then there's also the XRM or CRM. Then there's Field Service, et cetera, et cetera. That's where Microsoft is indicating they're putting the AI enhancements and the just overall functionality increase of AI is there, not in these legacy products. Even if your GP is up to date, you ain't going to get AI, guys. I'm going to be the first one to say that. So, but again, talk to your partners who are like living and breathing the GP product lifecycle more than we are. We're kind of across all of them. But that, to your point, Erica, that's the risk that you have, which makes your current software a legacy ERP because you're not getting not just upgrades today, but in the future.
Yeah. I think Infor is a great example of that too, just to bring up that whole product line, because they have a strategy of getting their customers onto a cloud-based solution. They're not innovating necessarily in the on-prem or the legacy-oriented systems. And while they're still offering solutions for that, and they're still offering options for customers who want to stay on M3, or not M3, X3. There's so many products with the same name.
Well, now that's Sage. No, on old Sightline or
Sightline, something like that.
SXE.
SXE, those
And there's
ones
and
in the
Infor
mid
has
market.
like 100 other apps. It's crazy.
Yeah, those ones, they're getting updates because Infor understands their customer base and they understand what they're doing, but you're not going to get the same functionality that you are if you're not moving into the cloud suite, where they are focusing a ton of their time with collaborations with Amazon and other companies to deliver new products.
You know, and I'd say that I talked to a lot of companies who are coming off of legacy Aptean products and ECI products. And Aptean, I don't think anybody hears about an Aptean ERP. I mean, maybe they have the food one or something, but there's a lot of these names of Aptean products that are legacy. They're not being developed newly. They're not being rewritten into the cloud. And fresh leadership, when they're coming in, this is another thing I see is they're like, why are we still using this old clothing manufacturing software that doesn't really connect to our e-commerce site or inventory, you know? So
Right. And you better be ready for the truth if you're going to ask the questions. Right? I mean, so what do you say to people when they're like, they call you and you're like, oh, I'm not sure why we're using this. What do you say?
well, I mean, we could see what the benefits of new ERP is, but what the costs are. So maybe it doesn't outweigh if the company's not far enough along in their maturation. There's nothing wrong with using older systems that are serving the business, because you have to grow up as, you know, the business has to grow and prove itself before it makes sense to buy a more modern ERP.
Yeah.
But if the business has proven itself and there's too many workarounds and you're spending too much time putting data into this system, into that system, into that system, then that's where it makes sense to, like I said, look up. And like when you have fresh leaders coming in, they're more likely to see it versus the person that's in the day-to-day.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Good. I think we already mentioned a couple of these other ones, but regulatory, you know, things can
good
change,
one.
I suppose.
Yeah.
I kind of remember like when we had our first fire department client, they were on a custom written system by somebody in the fire industry. And there was like a new regulatory requirement for the reporting, I think, for patient care, which is the ambulance transport. And the developers of it were like, we're not going to rewrite the software. Sorry, we're not going to update it to include those updates. So then all these fire departments at one time start like looking around, what are we going to do with our software? So
That happens a lot, whether it's financial compliance, there could be tariffs. That's a big one right now. But also, you know, regulatory from a hacienda in Mexico or throughout all of South America, Latin America, Canada, really throughout the whole country, right? There's a lot of taxation requirements, a lot of financial reporting requirements. That's what I'm coming back to. And if a vendor doesn't have the wherewithal, like that one that you just mentioned, to continuously invest in the product, you're going to get stuck on a legacy application.
Right.
Ouch.
yeah.
I know. That's why I just kind of want to say, when somebody calls, the first thing I always want to say is like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is hard.
Yeah.
You got like a million other things you should be focused on than your software.
Well, the last one I want to mention, just because I think we have some listeners that might relate to this one, is that the legacy product that they're on has other upgrades that could be taken, but they cannot move to the upgrade because they have too many customizations.
Oh, man.
Right?
I'm really sorry. Oh, God. That one deserves like a grunting. Ugh. And that's the SAP folks. I mean, those are the ones that have just been demolished with that, right? You've seen that with your research recently.
Yeah, SAP is an interesting one just because it is really the traditional ERP. Like they have, if you have the developers, if you have the resources, like you could customize the crap out of that thing.
That's right.
You can make it do whatever you want it to do. And then suddenly it's this big mess of customizations that you're like, huh, wait, why did we do that back in 1997? Like why was that how we set up the system?
Right.
Oh, I don't know. Well, could we change it? No. Because if we change it, it breaks this.
That's right.
And then if we change this, it goes over here. So, I mean, you have lots of companies that are just like, why did we do this?
Right.
They
But
don't
see,
even
in
remember why.
that point, like it could be an advantage to look at new systems, because why were those customizations needed? Now, maybe some of them were a little bit of castle building by a developer. But other times it's because the software didn't come with that functionality. And if it's been 10 or 20 or even more years since you implemented it, the newer ERPs may have already solved for that functionality, and that is why people are interested. That's what, from talking to them anyway. We're kind of hoping some of these things have been solved for. We can get it more out of the box, or like a logical bolt-on that's not a customization.
Yeah.
And so then they get to leverage all the other goodies that you get with a new ERP too.
Just moving to a new ERP, I am like shocked, and it's like, whoo, that's good to see because we just told them to do it. But when it's not right, we tell them, or when we tell them when it's not right to upgrade, we tell them don't upgrade. Don't get me wrong. But when a client upgrades to a new modern system, they always get benefits they don't even know about. Even to something as simple as being able to email out of a system better, track multiple contacts for each record, or, have a log of all the actions that are happening. In some of the apps I built back in the day, that was like a big deal to go to those log files. Very easy in the newer apps. But I do have to say something very apropos to a conversation we had earlier this week with a software vendor. Actually, we had sat down with them and we're kind of talking about some different things. And the person we were chatting to kind of said, look, when cloud came out, it felt like it was just a way for software vendors to make more money. Because instead of charging the big amount up front, they charge it every year. Yeah. And I remember in my career doing these cost analysis graphs that would show, okay, if we do on-prem, we're going to spend more in year one. If we do SaaS, subscription software as a service, and as a subscription, it's going to be less in year one, right? Mm-hmm. But then year two, we just pay for maintenance. If we do a license, year two for subscription, we pay the exact same. So it was about 2.5, 3 years where the graphs sort of changed the alignment, where the total cost of ownership for subscription software was more. Did that make any sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
I wish I had a little graph, but I would make it look too cheesy if I like a fourth grader did it. I love fourth graders, don't get me wrong. Anyway, but what I'm trying to say is software vendors did make more money. They do make more money with the subscription. But yes, they are maintaining the hardware for you. You don't have to do that yourself. And the security and the backups and all that other stuff. And the cybersecurity, don't forget that. But here's the thing, is that the legacy software, it wasn't really made to be configured heavily. Do I say customized? I'll say customized. It was made to be customized, but then not upgraded and stay on the path with the upgrades. Oh. We kind of wrote, and People Tools, J.D. Edwards tools, those are the ones I used. Other people on the call have used other tools and stuff, the ABAP. Somebody on our group here, I won't say whose father writes that. ABAP, isn't it? Isn't it the SAP's tools, the customization tools?
I don't know exactly. I
that's
know
what
he
it
codes
is.
in a lot of languages and stuff, so I
he's
don't
an
know what
ABAP
he
guy.
does.
Yeah.
He has a lot of things.
There you go. But the thing I'm trying to say is that with the non-legacy apps, if we want to call them modern apps, they are architected to handle customizations more elegantly and more so that we can make a change. And then when the 2 upgrades per year come out, it's easier to take the upgrade than it was when we just had our own app that sat in a corner on our own server that, maybe some the IT people were sick in a year, person who was supposed to maintain it, and they didn't take the upgrades for a year. And then the next year, like, okay, the person comes back, okay, I'm ready to go. Well, you know what? There were major upgrades. Now you got to re-implement, right? At least the cloud-based, the modern systems force the upgrades. Kind of stinks, frankly, especially if you're like in the life sciences and you have to validate that your IT systems are meeting the FDA requirements every time there's a major upgrade. But by doing a little bit each year, you're saving yourself from doing these ginormous efforts, in 3, 4, 5 years of an upgrade. Did I just bore everybody in the room on that?
No, I think it was helpful.
Good.
And I think that's a great segue into, Erica listed a lot of the complaints, a lot of the pain points that our prospects, customers are feeling. How do these pain points really harm the business, which is the core of what we're doing here today? Like, how is that hurting the people that we're working with?
Yeah, when I was looking at this, I was kind of segregating it into maybe some direct harms or risks and maybe some indirect harms and risks. So more like hard and soft benefits, that kind of idea, maybe less tangible, more tangible.
Yeah.
So really some of the direct risks feel like they come around a really big one these days with cybersecurity. Right? Yeah. Like I'm not sure what single company could possibly compete. Like just on that one point alone, like that the cybersecurity risks of penetrating into your files and, spreading and holding your data ransom. Right. Just that one element alone, it feels like you might have your business case in the software in the cloud.
But let's talk about that because, and again, you guys have to stop me when I get off on my technical rants because I love doing that. Yes. Okay, good. Here we go. It's the ERP. Let's say it's a J.D. Edwards One World or even World that runs on an AS400. You got an AS400 machine in a building, and it's running World with all of the app servers and all the database servers and everything that's on this thing, right? And it's a pretty strong platform, right? It's not that app that is prone to cybersecurity attacks. I mean, it could be if somebody lets a password get out or whatever, but that's probably not going to happen. What's probably going to happen is someone like me, I know I'm like the worst. Don't do this in the videos because I'm on it now, right? Don't watch me and say, oh, I'm going to go after that guy. Don't, I'll find you. Anyway, the bottom line is that it's not the app itself, it's the network. It's somebody does click on a link in the email that installs a file that sits on a server that sits there for like 6 weeks monitoring the activities. It doesn't just attack, right? It's gathering data, and it's probably sending data back to the bad actors, as James McQuiggan tells us about in October. It's scary. Anyway, maybe I'll come as a cybersecurity attack this year for my Thanksgiving.
That's a good idea.
That would be cool for my Thanksgiving, for
Halloween.
Halloween. Thank you.
Every holiday now.
Every holiday.
Just gonna
That's
have a
right.
theme.
We have themed costumes. So it's the network is what I'm trying to say, right? It's the infrastructure, the firewalls, et cetera. So then you have an ERP. But so what we see, to your point, Erica, is, we had 5 clients last year, maybe over the last several years, that all had cybersecurity attacks. Which is not a tip. I mean, it is typical. Many companies are getting hit. And they happen to they were our clients because we're going from on-prem to cloud software. Right. So we had one in particular, their network had a vulnerability, was penetrated, had the whole ransomware thing come up, and they were like, maybe we should just go to our new app since we're mid the implementation earlier, in 2 weeks. And everybody's like, yeah, let's do it. Boom. They went on. Now they still have local servers and other apps that are running within the building, but at least that main application that was running their business now is safe because you do have the Microsofts, the Inforce, the Epicors, the Deltecs, the Oracles that all are working either with their hyperscalers, right, and themselves to make sure that you have more cybersecurity security in place, right, to your point.
And new technology is even exacerbating the problem, right? Because me, who I don't code, I don't do any of that. Sean's making a face.
Secret closet coder.
Yeah, I just code in my free time. I
go.
could go onto ChatGPT and ask it to write me malware
for
a system. And would I know if it's right or not? Probably not.
Right.
But it's allowing cyber criminals to become more sophisticated, and it's a lot easier for me to take advantage of those vulnerabilities in those systems because technology is advancing and because those systems are getting left behind. Suddenly, not only are you not benefiting from the new systems, you're actually being harmed by the new things that are coming out. So.
That's right.
I think that plus the disaster recovery component.
Thanks, yeah.
We were talking about this preparing for the call. There's been a lot of horrible natural disasters, in air quotes. I don't know. That's another conversation.
They are natural disasters. Oh, I see.
Horrendous fires just demolishing parts of California, or unexpected hurricanes hitting states that aren't even near the ocean, or the Maui fires. Some very, very big encompassing disasters. And if your software is on your own server in your business, well, that's probably the last thing you're thinking about rescuing before you get out with the dogs and your car, if you even can do that. So with the modern software, they not only have it in a data center, of course a data center can burn down in one of those fires, but Shawn, What do they have, the newer software companies have when you have disaster recovery?
Well, first off, the servers are located in different places. There's automatic redundancy where whatever you do, in one data center goes to another. But to your point, again, this is the kind of advice we're giving to you folks that are listening to this, whether it's live or recorded. Maybe you can take your legacy app and put it in the cloud, right? In a private cloud kind of a setting. So you leverage the benefits of cloud for an old version of Sightline, let's say, and you don't have to migrate to Cloud Suite Industrial yet. Maybe just putting it in the cloud fixes that issue, just like it fixes the cybersecurity risk. So, we want to sift through these issues. Now, what always happens, 99 out of 100 times, is we come in and start, when you get a call, hey, I'm really worried about cybersecurity, I think I should upgrade my ERP. It's kind of like a little bit of an apples and oranges thing, right? You don't have to upgrade your ERP to solve the cybersecurity. Like I said, stick it up in the private cloud. But what's that going to cost, right? And by the way, if you're looking at that risk, what are some of the other things you have on your list that are really related to ERP? That's where those come in.
Just that the infrastructure becomes outdated, like you have the software is so old that you have to keep it on very old infrastructure that maybe is risky. You can't update the infrastructure with the software anymore that runs the on-premise ERP.
This is the way I would think about it if I were you guys listening to this call. This is the reason why you got to switch your ERP to a modern system. Now, what ultimately happens is the thing that indicates or catches the most fire, literally, or the most interest of the executive team is over here. I'm worried about cybersecurity risks, therefore we need to upgrade ERP. Okay, fine, right? So dig into it. Are there other options that you can do? That's kind of over here. What Erica, you just said is, we're running an older version of, I'll say it, Macola, and it requires a version of Windows that is not the most accurate or most up to date. But that's an old version of Macola. We should have upgraded Macola a long time ago to the new version of Windows, but somebody didn't along the way. Fine. Ooh. Well, we can try to find a cloud environment that has that old version of Windows. But chances are that cloud environment doesn't want that old version of Windows because it's vulnerable to security risks, right?
Yes.
We saw that a couple years ago. So that starts to get a little bit closer to the real reasons why. Keep going.
That makes sense. The other thing is just the system being unstable and crashing. I know of a couple of our clients that their legacy ERP, like this, they had the file sizes are so big and it's unstable.
Yeah.
There's, not to call out certain vendors, they just happen to be on Sage 300, another one on the other Sage 300.
Yeah.
Two clients.
CRE and ACPAC.
And ACPAC, yeah. Both,
Well, and you hear it all the time with QuickBooks.
Yeah, QuickBooks, that file gets too big. Now, QuickBooks isn't a legacy, it's still, but it depends on what QuickBooks you're using, if it's
Just saying.
on-premise,
Yeah.
enterprise.
Just saying.
Yeah.
And it's yet another reason that you need to
the
move on.
The file gets too big. If your file's too big, then QuickBooks can't handle all the information in
Yeah.
your file. Then that could be
So
a
now-
direct harm that could benefit.
Now you're really leaning toward, you're almost to the point of like, ooh, I'm sorry, you're going to have to switch, right? Because some ERPs, well, I'll say it this way. Every ERP is written with a maximum amount of transaction processing that it can do. Every single one of them has that. Now, the reality is you're probably not really going to hit that, but it is something that we have to look at when we come into our clients and say, okay, you're on QuickBooks, you're 100 and, how big was that company? 120 million, 140 million that we talked to? Running QuickBooks,
Happens more often than you'd think.
Love it. Yep, that's great. But then we have to say, okay, what about what kinds of transactions are you running, and what, it's not just journal entries, right? But what other areas? Well, everything else is in spreadsheets. That's how they could do that, right? Yeah. So now you've got all these spreadsheets around. I almost wanted to say, ain't nobody got no Mr. Roboto. That's what that reminds me of. Because you got this one, you got that one, you got that one. You need like a robot or AI to bring it all together. Let's do an ERP
The robot
first.
wouldn't even want to do that.
AI, ERP. Yeah, robot would be like, hey, I don't do that kind of thing. I'm sorry. That's
is too
beneath
much.
me. That's too much.
Too much.
That's right. I cannot do it. My circuits will blow. It's kind of true. But the point is that now you're starting to be to the truth of why you have to switch an ERP. And it could be Again, I'll just throw some names out. It could be a GP. It could be an old Sightline. It could be whatever. The SXE from Infor. The SAP ECC6s and R3s, they're not, people aren't leaving those apps because there's too many transactions. There's other problems they're running into there, but especially the tier 2s and the smaller apps, an old Sage 100, we had a client like that years ago, a knife manufacturer that they just, they had so much freaking data that just the app wasn't made to handle it.
Right.
Well, we had one client that had to get off Sage 100 because it didn't have enough decimals for their annual revenue.
There you go.
It couldn't do the billion. So
That's right.
Once you get to $1 billion, sorry, we can't
It's
add your
time to
numbers.
It's time to switch, folks. That's what you make all that money for. You're going to have to suck it up. and do it.
That's right.
But don't worry.
Put half your clients in one Sage 100, half in the other Sage
Right.
100, maybe.
There you go.
And I think just to touch on this before we go into the next question, you had a couple of indirect effects that that people faced in terms of new technology and not being able to attract talent. Do you want to touch on that really fast?
Yeah, I mean, I have definitely heard companies saying on intro calls that they are concerned about succession planning. Really, I mean, they don't maybe say it that exact way, but the talent that they can get. I mean, people babies have like iPads and iPhones that they use their finger to swipe everything.
I think they're assigned that in the hospital when they're born, aren't they? It's your iPhone.
That's how they scan their feet now.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure how, like, if you had to go into a green screen or blue screen, and then they're like, I don't know what to do. There's no mouse. You have to know commands or
Shortcut keys.
not even.
F1, F2, F3.
So if you're trying to hire people that are, earlier in their career that aren't used to that, you're going to have trouble competing for the talent. So they are, it's not the only reason. It's just a little bit of an indirect thing that they do bring up. And I think that the other indirect reasons we kind of talked about just why they call is the newer technologies. They just have got to get out of spreadsheets and swivel chair and double entry or mistakes, leakage, things coming through where you have things on spreadsheets or Google Sheets and not just being able to integrate to like your other systems that are modern enough that could be integrated to.
We had a consumer goods company recently, I think, right, that was doing most of their supply chain
Yeah.
in
Google.
Google
Almost
Sheets.
200
Oh my
million.
goodness.
200 million, right. And that had worked. I mean, that's incredible, right? They're like, Google should give them an award. Like the Google people. I'm oogling over your Google Sheets. But they spotted this, like, okay, we've got to get out of this, and sometimes it's a liquidity event that's coming up or, a new, like the person that was working at a large, international brands company comes down to the smaller company and they're like, no, I'm not going to do things this way. We're going to have to do an ERP.
We want to go public.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Shawn, I would love to get this. I know we've gone over a little bit what we were planning on, but what options do businesses on Legacy ERP have?
Oh, yeah.
She just teed you up.
Oh, man. Yeah. Sit back, relax, everybody. Here we go. No, there's...
You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, start. It's like a debate. Well, ladies and gentlemen of America, I would like to tell you this. There's really like 3 basic options, maybe a 4th, which is us. But the first one is talk to your vendor, ask them what you can do. You got to do that first. You got to say, look, I'm on blah, and I need to get modern. I need to get current. What can you do? We were actually on a call with a partner we do a lot of work with, and that's exactly what they said. They said, look, if you're on-prem right now, your first option is to upgrade to the cloud. I would say the 0.5 option before option 1 is make sure that your on-prem software is at least updated with what the software vendor provides, right?
Yes.
Then the next option is every vendor out there for a legacy app has a migration path to a cloud-based system.
Yes.
Now, as we all know, some of those paths are like, oh yeah, push a button and it just goes right up to the cloud. No, actually, none of them are that easy.
Sure.
Most of them are, it's like a whole new implementation.
Yes.
But fine, but then you make dang sure that software vendor gives you a ginormous discount because you're an existing customer.
Yes.
I can think of 5, but I'm not going to say them. So that's the second option, right? The third option is you can cry and just beg somebody to come in and help you. I don't know. But no, seriously, the third option is you go to market, right? And that's where, you talk to people at your industry associations, you talk to colleagues at other businesses within your own organization. What other apps have you used? You do some research online, you start blocking all the sales people calls that are going to call you. We were on a call with a client the other day, and somebody called him like 6 times, and he was like, I got to take this because I think this is an emergency. It was a software salesperson. And he was like, you are driving me. He got off and he got back on our conference call, and he said, this guy's like driving me. Oh my God, he's calling me again. So these guys can be pretty like, insistent, persistent. But that's the third option, is go look to the market and see what's out there and do some searches, get some downloads, read some reports, etc. Of course, then you're going to go through a selection process. Don't do that without looking at our site. Please, we have tons of free stuff out there about how the DIYers can do it and not end up getting fired. I'm just going to say it. The fourth option, of course, is talk to the independent advisory firms like us. There's others out there. They're not as good. They better not be, or I shouldn't say that. But there's, you can go to, other folks that sell the software. And, oh, by the way, we'll do a selection for you. And they're always going to, do the right thing. And I think that's true. I've come across a couple of partners that do selections and then they do implementations. I think they're good people, and they'll try to pass you in the right direction. But this is all folks like us do. So, those are the 4 options. And I would exhaust the first 2, like really look at those closely before you go to market. Really the 5th option is Lucy's free ERP advisory service. Instead of Lucy, it's actually Erica from Peanuts, like you said. You can call Erica. I don't know what our number is. Maybe we can flash that up there, or get Erica at ERP Advisors Group, actually, or info or sales or whatever. And she'll meet with you for free, right? And get you going in the right directions. And sometimes, what happens then, Erica, when that occurs? What do you do? What happens?
Well, when we have an introductory call, I find out if we're a good match or not, because not everybody that's interested in software needs our help. So and if they look like it's a really simple matter that's like a little bit, we would be overkill for, I either offer like, hey, let's do an expert hourly call with Shawn, where maybe they do 1 or 2 calls, they get tons and tons and tons of information, and that's all they needed. Or I give them an intro to some technical resources that I think will be right down their alley. I did that just yesterday, 2 days ago, with a NetSuite customer that is just frustrated with, it doesn't have landed costs in there. Like, I don't really do that. That's all you need. You just need a good NetSuite technician. Yep. So go talk to these guys. They'll take really good care of you. But on the other hand, it's like, no, this is a complex matter. It does sound like you need a consultant. So then we kind of put them in our pipeline of, okay, we want to pull you through and introduce you to technical people. We'll give you a statement of work. We'll go through the point of, if we're a finalist, giving references, introducing to who would be your project lead. Prospects ask me for all kinds of things. Hey, can you help me with how much would software cost and implementation and everything? Because I have to get some high-level budget approval before I can even start. I'm like, well, usually it's funny because, that's part of the point of our first phase of work is to give the cost estimates. But we can give like a educated guess. So it's, I'll get a technical person to help me estimate how much will everything cost you. Like, we have to be these magicians or psychics.
Yeah.
It's more
They could
psychics.
forecast all like, what are you actually selecting, right? But it's pretty close. So we can give cost estimates, all kinds of documents, sample deliverables, success stories from our happy clients. So anyway, there's lots of ways we help them to do the diligence with us to see if we're a good fit.
Yeah,
To be hired.
and like you said, if we're not, we might say, hey, go talk to this vendor and that vendor. We don't make a dime, but just go talk to them. And sometimes that even is what folks need to do, isn't it? Because they're kind of like, look, I kind of, can you get me going in the right direction? Yeah, we'll get you going in the right direction. And that might be enough. Other people go in that direction and they're like, oh my gosh, this is even worse than I thought.
And they have come back to us and hired us, and we don't take any kickbacks or commissions for those intros.
That's
and
right.
Frankly, it's a major public service that we provide, because you can't just Google these things. Like, there's just no amount of Googling or ChatGPT or Grok or whatever that really, maybe Grok, But
I don't think so. I check it. I'm training.
I'm trying to
growth.
train growth at ERP
I'm-
Advisors.
Yes.
Group is the best.
But it's important though, because it's almost like you're not alone.
Yeah.
You're not alone. There are so many people out there that are like, they have the guts, frankly, on behalf of their organizations to confront the fact that their software is old and that it's actually a risk. The direct and indirect effects, like you talked about, are real. So if you're there and you're looking at this, you really owe it to yourself to maybe not exhaust all the options, but look into it enough so that you can like sleep better at night. Because once you really confront this little thing, like, we haven't upgraded JD Edwards in years. What's that really doing to our organization? And if you ask a little bit, right, you just start pulling the string a little bit, you might be like, whoa, like we didn't take a regulatory patch for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Or it's like, no, we're up to date, we're fine. The business, I mean, we had a client recently where they were on PeopleSoft, right? And they were like, we're ready to upgrade, but we want to make sure. We said, don't do it. You'd be crazy to do it. And here's why. This is the cost. Here's the risks. Your business hasn't changed. And even though it's expensive, it feels like it's expensive. Look, here's the one-time cost that you're going to need several years to recoup, and you're probably going to get sold in that time. So you don't have the time frame for it. Funny enough, they just called us back yesterday. So the bottom line is that there are options out there. Don't feel like you're, trapped by your legacy. Are you trapped by your legacy ERP? No, you're not.
Yeah, and I'll just wrap. I think that's a good place to end, just to give some people some hope, but just to remind everybody, the longer you stay on that legacy ERP, the more painful it becomes later down the line. And even if it is the right decision to stay, you would rather know that now than it be 3 years from now and you weren't already thinking about that process. It just becomes harder and harder. But thank you everyone for joining us for today's call. And we had a question pop up, so if you need help, please do let us know. And like Shawn said, you can reach out to Erica at ERPadvisorsgroup.com, or you can reach out at info@ERPadvisorsgroup.com if you're considering a project. Erica still gets it. These are just multiple ways to talk to Erica. You can also always go onto our website. We have tons of resources, as well as our phone number, which Erica, and our contact us or consultation form, which is Erica.
Erica and
another
Charlie.
Charlie. It's another
right.
roundabout way to get to Erica.
There you go.
So thank you again, everyone, for joining us for today's call. And again, please let us know if you have any questions. Be sure to join us for our next webinar, which is scheduled for Thursday, April 3rd. What to do when you outgrow your accounting software, where we will discuss the risks versus benefits of we will talk about what you need to do when you have outgrown your accounting software, and this is for a free CPE.
Oh, that's the CPE event.
So
Nice.
that's really exciting. I highly recommend anybody who needs CPE to encourage. I know it's a reporting year, so just want to plug that in there.
Yeah.
And please go to our website, ERPadvisorsgroup.com, for more details, learning objectives, and to register. ERP Advisors Group is one of the country's top independent enterprise software advisory firms. ERP Advisors Group advises mid to large-size businesses on selecting and implementing business applications from enterprise resource planning, customer relationship management, human capital management, business intelligence, and other enterprise applications, which equate to millions of dollars in software deals each year across many industries. This has been the ERP Advisor. Thank you again for joining us.
Thanks, everybody.